The world is facing a catastrophic phenomenon called an abyss. These dimensional rifts open whenever mana concentration in the atmosphere hits critical levels, unleashing powerful monsters from a hellish dimension. The larger the abyss, the stronger the demons that emerge. One day, a level 12 abyss, a cataclysmic event, appeared near where a young boy named Noel lived. Level 12, Abyssi summoned a monstrous entity known as Loth, a demon lord. Noel's hometown was completely obliterated overnight by this demonic invasion. Thankfully, Noel had his grandpa, a retired hero, living with him. Although his fighting days were long behind him, Grandpa knew he had to act to save his grandson. He ordered Noel to hide in the basement until he returned. Noel pleaded with his grandpa not to go, fearing he'd be left alone, having already lost his parents. But Grandpa, whose legendary name was Overdead the Undying, scolded him not to underestimate his power. Though he knew he was risking his life to protect Noel, he was confident in his ability to win. The battle was swift and brutal. Grandpa single-handedly fought the entire demonic horde throughout the night. By sunrise, the demon lord Loth had been defeated. But when Noel emerged from the basement to find his grandpa, he was met with a heartbreaking sight. While Grandpa had defeated the demon lord, he hadn't been able to defeat old age. Exhausted and weakened from blood loss, Grandpa knew his time was short. With his last breaths, he explained that this was the fate of a seeker, someone who fights for a living. They always have to accept the risk of death. Noel's childhood dream was always to be a hero just like his grandpa. Even witnessing his grandpa's death didn't change that. Seeing his grandson's unwavering resolve, Grandpa made Noel promise him to become an undefeated seeker. It was their final pact. With that promise made, Grandpa passed away peacefully. Though heartbroken by losing his last remaining family member, Noel refused to give up. For 2 years, he trained tirelessly to become a hero like his grandpa. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. While Noel possessed a brilliant tactical mind, he lacked physical strength. Instead, he became a powerful supporter and a master strategist capable of guiding his teammates to victory. His team consisted of a mage and 2 warriors. Noel's class was a tactician, the weakest in direct combat, but the strongest in support, capable of issuing commands that drastically boosted his allies' effectiveness. Their current mission pitted them against low-level vampires, incapable of magic. However, their queen possessed the terrifying ability to reproduce endlessly. This meant killing the endless waves of vampire minions wasn't a viable solution. The only way to truly eliminate the threat was to take down the queen. Even these lesser vampires were incredibly strong, capable of tearing apart a bull with their bare hands. And as long as their heads remained intact, they could regenerate. Noel, having diligently researched the enemy, was the only one aware of these crucial details. His blissfully unaware teammates relied on him for guidance and focused on clearing out the minions. When they questioned why not just go straight for the queen, Noel warned them against such a reckless strategy. While killing the source was the most efficient way to end the threat, it was also the most dangerous, potentially leading to their demise. This mission, he explained, was beyond their current rank. They needed to be strategic. Knowing your enemy was half the battle. Without first thinning out the vampire hordes, their chances of survival were slim. Hearing Noel's plan, the team followed his lead. He was their undisputed strategist. Despite his tactical brilliance, Noel resented his class. The limitations frustrated him. He could only enhance his teammates' strength and stats through commands. Just then, the vampire queen, sensing their presence, attacked. She unleashed a cloud of poisonous gas, directly targeting Noel. His teammates considered rescuing him, knowing they couldn't win without his support. Cornered and taunted by the axe-wielding warrior, Noel, fueled by anger and adrenaline, snapped. He shouted, "Don't underestimate me," blasting several lesser vampires with his pistol, clearing a path for his team. Facing the queen, Noel remained calm, issuing a series of commands, boosting his team's overall power by 25%. With his orders given, the 2 warriors charged, engaging the queen. Noel followed up with another skill, inspiring morale, further enhancing the team's strength and magic power by another 25%. He then directed Tanya, the mage, to reinforce Lloyd and Walter's defenses as they continued their assault on the queen. Meanwhile, several remaining vampires ambushed Noel, putting him in a precarious position. He used clarity of mind on Tanya, ensuring she remained focused, while he prepared to handle the remaining vampires himself. allowing the others to concentrate on the queen. Noel had to hold out for 74 seconds. To do so, he utilized Shadow Shot and Paralyzing Command, two crucial skills in a tactician's self-defense arsenal, freezing the vampires in place. He quickly dispatched most of them, but one managed to escape. Thanks to his sharp intellect and precise calculations, Noel survived the ambush. He immediately shifted his focus back to the queen, amplifying his teammates' power just as they prepared their final blow. With a surge of coordinated power, they unleashed their ultimate attacks, obliterating the vampire queen. But as they turned back to Noel, they saw him get stabbed. Thankfully, due to his precise timing, the vampire's claws hadn't pierced him deeply. He had calculated that the remaining minions would weaken once the queen was defeated, making them less of a threat. As the battle ended, the abyss closed, leaving the three warriors in awe of Noel's leadership and strategic brilliance. "You're reckless, Noel," Tanya exclaimed. Noel just grinned. He thrived on the thrill of danger. He believed it was the fastest way to improve. He remembered his grandpa laughing at his self-doubt when he was younger, a frail boy dreaming of becoming a warrior like him. Grandpa had told him, "Whether you're a tactician or anything else, with your potential, you'll become the strongest." He clung to those words. He felt he was on the right track, confident that even as the weakest tactician, he would one day surpass even his grandpa's legendary status. Their group was based in the imperial capital of Etrai, a city that thrived thanks to Machina civilization. Abysses appeared more frequently here than elsewhere, attracting all sorts of unusual individuals. Those capable of defeating the abyssal monsters and purifying the tainted lands were revered. Upon turning 15, they could officially become seekers, like Noel. This career path, however, meant he couldn't operate alone. Their latest mission had netted them a hefty 5 million gold reward, their biggest payout since forming the team a year ago. To achieve his ambition of becoming a hero, Noel needed his team to gain experience and, more importantly, to test his unconventional strategies. Seeing Noel's lack of enthusiasm during their celebratory meal, Walter asked if something was bothering him. He encouraged Noel to confide in him, assuming he was unhappy with the reward split, which was smaller for Noel since he hadn't landed the final blow on the queen. Noel, slightly tipsy, began reminiscing about his grandpa's teachings. He always said, "If you're in this business, you have to be obsessed with money. Money buys happiness. Money buys the tools you need to survive. Don't worry about what others say. A good seeker wears their insults like medals. Never let anyone look down on you." He then turned to Walter, a playful smirk on his face, and teased his thick-headed friend. Walter, oblivious, continued his rant, accusing Noel of damaging the team's reputation with his constant haggling over money. Noel, with a sarcastic tone, pointed out that Walter was the most admired member, even bringing up the fact that Walter was 2 years older than him. Noel quipped, "For seekers, strength matters, not age." Walter retorted that Noel, of all people, shouldn't be talking about strength, considering he just stood back and issued commands. The jab stung, but Noel remained composed, interpreting their words as honest if blunt feedback. After all, he was just a tactician. Lloyd, seeing the argument escalate, intervened, preventing the situation from turning ugly. Lloyd was popular, especially with Tanya, who was also his girlfriend, a fact that often irked Walter. That evening, after deducting operating and equipment repair costs, the team divided their earnings. Tanya sighed, disappointed with the meager individual shares despite their hard work. Lloyd remained optimistic, believing bigger payouts were on the horizon. Noel, however, was more realistic. Missions like their last one were rare, and even then, competition was fierce. Unlike established clans, who received direct commissions, their team was left picking up scraps. He'd been contemplating forming their clan to accelerate their growth. Their shared funds totaled 12.8 million gold. Establishing a clan required 20 million. Noel offered to cover the difference, arguing that forming a clan would lead to faster growth compared to their current hand-to-mouth existence. Lloyd hesitated, citing ongoing expenses. Noel, already anticipating these objections, pressed on, highlighting how their current path would take decades to achieve any significant progress. Walter, despite his gruff exterior, understood Noel's logic and agreed that forming a clan was the best way forward. Noel, having done his research, explained that having a visually appealing member was key to securing government commissions. Lloyd fits that bill perfectly. Once they gained recognition, Lloyd's looks could be leveraged for endorsements and public appearances, boosting their profile. He pointed out that successful clans almost always had attractive members, securing sponsorships and advertising deals. With the vote tied at 2, the final decision rested with Lloyd. Noel added a final push, stating that if Lloyd disagreed, he'd withdraw his share from the joint funds and leave the team to pursue his own goals. Faced with this ultimatum, Lloyd reluctantly agreed. However, at their scheduled meeting the next day, Lloyd and Tanya were nowhere to be found, along with the team's entire savings. Walter delivered the devastating news to a stunned Noel. A message left by the treacherous duo revealed that Lloyd had gambled away their 12.8 million gold, and, fearing Noel's reaction, they had decided to run. While Walter panicked over their lost savings, Noel burst out laughing. He found the sheer stupidity of Lloyd's actions hilarious. Lloyd's seemingly innocent facade had been shattered, revealing a rotten core that Noel found both amusing and pathetic. Noel pressed Walter for details, confirming the letter's origin. Walter explained he'd stumbled upon it while checking Lloyd's room after finding him absent from their scheduled midday meeting. He'd gone to their captain's room, only to discover both Lloyd and Tanya were gone. The innkeeper confirmed they'd left at 8 p.m. the previous night, a calculated move, timed just before the capital's gates closed. Perfect for a nighttime escape. It was now 9:30 a.m., meaning they had a half-day head start. Noel, unfazed by their attempted disappearing act, calmly began formulating a plan. Catching them wouldn't be difficult with horses, especially if he could predict their route. The crucial question was what to do after they caught them. Walter, eager for immediate action, was ready to storm off, but Noel stopped him. He cautioned. Impulsiveness leads to mistakes. Walter, all brawn and little brain, wanted to pound the traitors into the ground. But when Noel asked if he could take Lloyd in a fight, he hesitated. With Noel's support maybe, but factoring in Tanya complicated things. She was complicit, and a wrong move could turn the confrontation deadly. Furthermore, the letter mentioned using the money to repay a debt, raising the possibility that even if they caught them, the money might be gone. A more pragmatic approach was needed. Noel, with a sinister grin, assured Walter, whose frustration was evident, "My revenge will be tenfold." Donning their gear, they headed to a local tavern frequented by other warriors, seeking assistance. Noel reassured Walter, "You may be a musclehead, but you're a valuable musclehead. I've got the brains, you've got the brawn. Trust my plan." Inside, Noel loudly announced a bounty. 2 million gold to whoever captures Lloyd and Tanya. They're seekers who absconded with our team funds. Walter was bewildered, but Noel knew capturing and subduing the pair alone would be difficult. Hiring extra muscle would simplify things. This was just the first step in his elaborate plan. He told Walter to stay calm and let him handle it. Several teams immediately took up the bounty, energized by Noel's promise of immediate payment upon completion. Lacking active missions, they eagerly joined the hunt. Noel provided minimal information, only that the runaways had left the previous night before the gates closed. Crucially, he emphasized they were traveling on foot to avoid detection, implying they couldn't be far. As time ticked by with no results, Noel feigned concern, just as his real target entered the tavern. This man had witnessed Lloyd and Tanya's departure, and knew their route. He approached Noel, expecting the full 2 million, but Noel, ever the shrewd negotiator, offered 1 million. He pointed out that the man's team, a ragtag bunch of low-rankers, wouldn't stand a chance against Lloyd and Tanya alone. Noel and Walter would accompany them as assistants, naturally reducing the reward. Exploiting the man's desperation for a quick payday, Noel held firm on his offer. Seeing Noel's unwavering resolve, the man reluctantly accepted, eager for the promised immediate payment. The deal was struck, and they prepared to depart. But Noel had one more move. He instructed Walter to accompany the hired team, telling him to wait at the south gate. Moments later, fully equipped, Noel set off alone. A worried Walter called out, "Are you sure about this, Noel? You're actually going to fight them?" Noel's response was cold and resolute. "There will be no mercy." Noel explained to Walter that he'd always anticipated the possibility of betrayal. We're all human, prone to mistakes. This seemed paradoxical, given their camaraderie. It implied Noel had never truly trusted them. Trust isn't blind faith. Noel clarified. Healthy skepticism is essential for survival. This explains his calm demeanor, unlike Walter's emotional turmoil. By afternoon, as predicted, the runaway couple reached a village, seeking respite. Lloyd, assuming Noel would give up after realizing the money was gone, let his guard down. But their every move had been anticipated. Noel, along with 5 hired seekers, surrounded them. With a swift tactical maneuver, Noel immobilized Lloyd and Tanya, rendering them defenseless. Disarmed, Lloyd offered a meek apology, infuriating Walter, who lunged forward, fist raised, but Noel held him back. He said, "Talking first." He questioned Lloyd about the letter, the missing $12 million, and the whereabouts of their recent mission earnings. Lloyd claimed he'd used it to repay debts, a lie Noel instantly saw through. He exposed Lloyd's gambling relapse, enraging Walter, who reminded him that the money was earned through their collective life-risking efforts. Lloyd, instead of showing remorse, whined about the pressures of leadership. Noel, losing his patience, kicked him, shouting, "You stole from us, and you're complaining?" Noel's normally gentle demeanor vanished, revealing a ruthless pragmatism. He was willing to do whatever it took to achieve his goals. He reminded Lloyd that he had volunteered for leadership. No one forced him. Noel continued his relentless assault, ignoring Lloyd's pleas for mercy. When Tanya tried to intervene, Noel asked if she wanted to take Lloyd's place, reminding her of his equal opportunity approach to punishment. He used his tactician skills to compel her to confess the truth. As suspected, Tanya was also a gambling addict, enabling Lloyd's destructive behavior. Regaining her senses, Tanya accused Noel of illegally using his abilities for personal gain, a crime punishable by imprisonment. Noel, unfazed, pointed out that she too was guilty of embezzlement, a far more serious offense. He explained that under imperial law, his methods were permissible during investigations. It was they who faced imprisonment, likely a decade of hard labor until their debt was paid. The hired seekers, growing impatient, demanded their payment. Noel, already irritated, didn't appreciate the man's aggressive tone. With a swift, precise strike to the chest, he rendered the seeker unconscious, a technique called a heart tremor, taught to him by his grandfather. It was a heart tremor, a technique that delivered a powerful shock just above the heart, causing temporary paralysis. Its advantage was its effectiveness, regardless of the target's strength. As a tactician lacking physical enhancement abilities, Noel had been rigorously trained in this self-defense technique since childhood by his grandpa. Just then, Noel's contact arrived, Pinocchio, a slave trader with a penchant for unique acquisitions, and a close acquaintance of Noel's. He'd come personally to negotiate. Though outwardly affable, Pinocchio served the capital's largest mafia organization, the Barzini family, whose influence extended even to the imperial court. His duplicitous nature earned him the moniker, the Mad Jester. Walter was stunned. This was the powerful figure Noel had alluded to earlier. Noel had anticipated Lloyd and Tanya's lack of funds. Imprisonment was unproductive. Selling them into slavery was the most profitable solution. Tanya initially resisted, but Noel offered her a choice: 10 years of hard labor in prison, or serving wealthy clients as a slave. He highlighted the grim reality of prison mines, where survival rates were a mere 2%, and even those who lived often emerged crippled. Faced with this bleak prospect, Tanya fell silent. Pinocchio, after inspecting his goods, offered a paltry 6 million gold for the pair. Noel scoffed, prompting Pinocchio to whisper about an impending decree from the Holy Church, promoting simple living and austerity, impacting the slave trade. Wealthy clients would be less inclined to spend lavishly, hence the lower offer. Noel, however, saw through his charade. The Barzini family, controlling the capital's underworld, wouldn't be deterred by a church decree. They'd find ways around it for their wealthy clientele. He countered with 11 million, doubling Pinocchio's offer. Pinocchio, initially delighted, quickly realized Noel was playing hardball. As Noel incrementally raised the price, Pinocchio grew exasperated. He exclaimed, "What are you talking about?" before impulsively offering 30 million. Noel's strategy was to inflate the perceived buying price, to drive up the selling price. During the church's austerity campaign, his exorbitant purchase would attract attention among the nobility. They'd assume the slaves must be exceptionally rare to warrant such a price during a sensitive period, creating artificial demand. Pinocchio could then resell them at a tripled price once scarcity set in. However, the actual price Pinocchio paid Noel would be only 15 million. Though risky, Noel knew this was a small gamble for Pinocchio. Intrigued by Noel's cunning, Finocchio agreed to the 15 million and even extended an invitation for Noel to join the Barzini family, which Noel politely declined. He then threatened the hired seekers with dire consequences if they breathed a word of the deal. As Lloyd was apprehended, Tanya pleaded with Noel for mercy, citing their past camaraderie. Noel retorted, "No comrade uses their team's hard-earned money for gambling." She turned to Walter, who, despite his feelings for her, remained resolute. Enraged, Tanya unleashed a torrent of insults at them both. Walter, visibly saddened, admitted he'd had feelings for Tanya. Noel paid the hired seekers their million gold, earning a grudging "monster" from their bruised leader. A few days later, Walter decided to leave and rebuild his career elsewhere. He was surprised and pleased to see Noel there to see him off. They'd already divided their remaining funds, and Noel gifted Walter his favorite bottle of liquor. Noel had tried to dissuade Walter from quitting, reminding him, "In this business, teammates are replaceable. You'll get used to it." He'd even offered Walter a place on his new team, but Walter lacked the courage to join Noel. As Noel departed, Walter mused, "That guy, he's probably heartless." He recalled Tanya's affection for Noel, but Noel sought something beyond love. Both men reminisced about their team's early days, when their bond felt genuine. Noel, noticing a snake shedding its skin, reflected on the need for self-renewal to become stronger. Alone again, Noel began recruiting new team members. His tavern friends were skeptical, advising him to join an existing team. Most seekers at their level were already part of established teams or clans. Wolf, leader of the promising C-rank clan, Lightning Bite, persistently tried to recruit Noel. They desperately needed a tactician like Noel to advance. Exasperated, Noel struggled to make Wolf understand his refusal. The other Lightning Bite members, more tactful, urged Wolf to stop, sensing Noel's discomfort. They even revealed how Wolf's blunt approach had led to a recent rejection by another seeker. Embarrassed by the public airing of his romantic failures, Wolf thankfully found himself among friends. Noel offered Wolf a chance to convince him, relinquish leadership. The other members, surprisingly, supported Noel taking the lead. Wolf felt betrayed. They clearly saw Noel as a superior leader. But Wolf refused. He insisted, "This is my clan." It was his way of rejecting Noel's offer without directly saying no. Suddenly, a young woman appeared, startling everyone. Her presence had been completely undetectable. Even the team's tracker hadn't sensed her arrival. She introduced herself as Alma and expressed interest in joining Noel's team, having seen his recruitment notice. They sat down to discuss her qualifications, though her youthful appearance raised concerns. Alma, 21 years old, 5 years Noel's senior, was strikingly beautiful. Noel's friends bombarded her with questions about her hobbies and interests. She was a C-rank scout, a valuable asset for abyss exploration, especially for ranged fighters like archers. When Noel inquired about her motivation for becoming a seeker, Alma revealed her disinterest in the profession. Her sole purpose was to meet Overdead's grandson, Noel. Noel was stunned. This woman had a connection to his grandpa. Not directly, but through her grandfather. Alma had been raised on stories about Noel's grandpa, who had, in a past duel, severed her grandfather's right arm. Noel braced himself, expecting a vengeful confrontation. But Alma assured him she held no such intentions. She was simply intrigued by the grandson of the hero, who had defeated her grandfather. Relieved, Noel revealed his grandpa had passed away and offered his apologies. Alma accepted, mentioning her grandfather had died just a month prior. The past was the past. Noel inquired about her grandfather's name. The answer sent a chill through the tavern. Alcor Judicali, the legendary assassin. Even Noel knew of Alcor, the founder and first leader of the infamous Assassin's Guild, a secretive organization known for accepting contracts on anyone. Some disbelieving patrons scoffed at Alma's claim, citing her C rank as evidence against her lineage. Wolf intervened, advising Logan, the loudest doubter, to drop it. He explained the tavern's unspoken rules. Only seekers were allowed, and regulars had leeway in dealing with troublemakers. Alma, intrigued, asked Noel how seekers' status was determined. Noel explained it required a recognized class, a rank, and public acknowledgement. Alma possessed the first two, needing only recognition to complete the trifecta. She decided to use Logan as her stepping stone. The others cringed, knowing she'd just uttered Logan's most hated insult. Enraged, Logan swung at her, but Alma effortlessly dodged his slow attack. With a single swift move, she brought him down. To drive the point home, she delivered another blow to his head. The tavern fell silent, stunned. Noelle, impressed by her strength, immediately offered her a spot on his team. Alma, suddenly declaring her hunger, accepted a pastry from Noelle, delighted by the unfamiliar treat. Despite being older, she possessed a childlike innocence, a result of her isolated upbringing in the mountains. Noelle, now convinced of her lineage, had initially been suspicious. Alma, however, had recognized him as Overdead's grandson instantly, because his eyes radiated a relentless drive for victory. Alma's grandfather had warned her never to face Overdead, describing him as perpetually out of control, an insurmountable opponent. Looking into Noelle's eyes, she saw a reflection of that untamed spirit, recalling her grandfather's warning. Noelle, curious, asked if she'd spent her entire life training as an assassin in the mountains. It made sense, given her family's history. Scout to assassin was a logical progression, potentially surpassing even her grandfather. However, life had other plans. Despite qualifying for B rank and possessing exceptional skills, Alma had been rejected from the Assassin's Guild. To join her grandfather's organization, candidates had to pass an entrance exam. Alma's opponent, a current guild member, underestimated her C rank and attacked first. Alma swiftly dominated him, despite his assassin training, and was about to deliver a finishing blow when the examiner intervened. Her grandfather had taught her that in their world, strength reigned supreme. Even killing a fly was inconsequential. He dismissed such notions as relics of the past, claiming the modern guild was civilized. Though the old, ruthless ways were officially gone, Alma, disregarding this, had acted according to her upbringing. The examiner, whose power was overwhelming, reprimanded her for clinging to outdated principles, deeming her unsuitable for the modern guild. Despite her undeniable skill, she was disqualified, much to her frustration. The guild, under new leadership, had reformed. The old ways were obsolete. Traditionally, the guild operated under a survival of the fittest mentality, independent of outside influence. Now, however, they served the empire, their assassins officially sanctioned by the government, focusing on intelligence gathering rather than assassination. This, she explained, was for the guild's future. Alma, realizing she'd revealed classified information, panicked. She asked, horrified, "Will they send assassins after me now?" Noelle was speechless. She'd shared top-secret intel without a second thought. Despite her age, she was remarkably naive. Seeing Noelle's worry, Alma, in a burst of misplaced protectiveness, vowed to defend him. Noelle was now burdened with a well-meaning, but slightly unhinged adopted older sister. The next day, they went to a forest to test Alma's compatibility with Noelle's tactician skills. Alma, unfamiliar with the nuances of buffs, only knew that tacticians, though weak in combat, excelled at support. Noelle explained each tactician had unique buffing styles. He possessed a diverse skill set, requiring careful selection depending on the situation. He even had one incredibly powerful ability, a game changer, usable only once per battle. He explained that misusing this ability could wipe out his entire team. A tactician had to read the battlefield perfectly, applying the right buffs at the right time to maximize their team's combat potential. Victory or defeat often rested on the tactician's shoulders. Noelle exuded confidence in his abilities. While tacticians typically avoided direct combat, Noelle, thanks to his grandfather's rigorous training, was an exception. Their first task was a monster hunt. These creatures, mutated by abyssal energy, though weaker than true beasts, were still dangerous. Hunting them was standard, seeker work. Their target, a steel-horned rabbit, deceptively cute but fiercely aggressive. This hunt was also a test for Alma. While she could likely handle it without buffs, Noelle wanted to assess her ability to control enhanced power. Scouts like Alma possessed a skill called Raging Acceleration, granting a 5-fold speed boost. Mastering this amplified speed took time and practice. This was Noelle's point. Adapting to buffs required adjustment. His previous team had needed a month. Their future operations hinged on this trial. He urged Alma to give it her all. Using her tracking skills, Alma located 13 rabbits within a 200-meter radius. Noelle applied 2 buffs, enhancing her speed and strength. As long as she followed his commands, these enhancements would increase. He instructed her to use maximum acceleration. The challenge: capture a rabbit within 10 seconds. Upon his command, Alma activated Raging Acceleration, moving at near sonic speed. She captured all 13 rabbits in a mere 8 seconds, unharmed. Such immediate adaptation suggested prodigious talent, further enhanced by her inherited assassin abilities. Thrilled with her success, Noel assigned her their first official mission, hunting bandits in a nearby village. They set off, Alma bubbling with excitement. Having lived a sheltered life in the mountains, everything was new to her. Noel warned her that while the initial journey might be pleasant, the road to the village would be arduous. To pass the time, he explained the nuances of Seeker's work. Explorers like them specialized in various branches, not just hunting abyss-spawned beasts. Bandit hunting was called gram hunting. There were also beast hunts and treasure hunts. Their current mission, originally assigned to the local lord, had been outsourced to Seekers due to delays. Such commissions, often funded by poor villagers pooling their resources, offered little monetary reward, but provided valuable aid. This resonated with Alma. By evening, they reached a town, seeking lodging. Every inn was full. Finally, they found a room, but it had only one bed. Noel offered Alma the bed, but she, harboring a crush, invited him to share. Noel, oblivious, declined. Later, after Noel bathed, Alma complimented his physique, comparing him to a well-trained beast. It was frustrating but true. His class wasn't combat-focused. No amount of training could change that. Alma, voicing her thoughts aloud, mused that had Noel been a warrior like his grandfather, he'd be the strongest Seeker alive. Annoyed by the unnecessary comment, Noel playfully flicked her forehead. As they rested, he recalled his grandfather's words. Even as a tactician, you will become the strongest Seeker. The next morning, Noel awoke to find himself suffocating, his face buried in Alma's ample bosom. They arrived at the familiar village, greeted by the village elder. Noticing Alma, he inquired about the rest of the team. Noel, downplaying the situation, simply said they'd retired, leaving him and his partner, Alma, assuring the elder of her considerable strength. Invited for tea, they met the elder's wife and their adorable daughter, Chelsea. Chelsea, harboring a crush on Noel, was shy in his presence. Her father attributed her behavior to teenage awkwardness. Noel, however, suspected her disappointment stemmed from the absence of his handsome former teammate, Lloyd. Chelsea had eagerly anticipated Noel's arrival, only to have her affections misinterpreted as directed towards Lloyd. Getting down to business, Noel confirmed the mission details, eliminating a bandit group, estimated at 20 members, currently terrorizing neighboring villages, and soon to reach theirs. They weren't just thieves, they also abducted young women. The bandits' hideout was located in the eastern forest. Armed with this information, Noel requested the upfront payment of 200,000 gold, with an additional 300,000 upon completion. The mission was risky, and the payout seemed low, but Noel was motivated by a desire to help the villagers. To his surprise, the elder immediately handed over the down payment. Unlike previous occasions, Noel sensed something amiss, but decided to focus on the mission, addressing the unusual payment later. Outside, Alma expressed disgust at the elders leering at her chest. Noel was surprised. Such behavior, especially in front of his family, was unsettling. Just then Chelsea appeared, calling out to Noel. Knowing he was about to face the bandits, she wished him luck, displaying a slingshot Noel had taught her to make on a previous mission. Alma, observing Chelsea's affection for Noel, felt a pang of jealousy. Noel's simple gift had brought joy to the village children. Chelsea confessed to treasuring a precious gift from Noel, much to his amusement. She promised a celebratory meal upon his return. As she left, Noel asked Alma, "What's with that look on your face?" Alma commented on Noel's deceptive nature, appearing aloof but possessing a hidden warmth, evident in his effortless charm with Chelsea. She suspected Noel's kindness was a ploy to win Chelsea's affection, teasing him about his ulterior motives. Stung by her remark, Noel shot back, says the girl with the big personality. He wasn't sure if it was a compliment or an insult. They located the bandit hideout, but instead of the expected 20 members, there were twice as many. Noel realized this wasn't a simple band of thieves, but a group led by a wanted criminal with a 2 million gold bounty. He recognized the leader as a former B-rank scout, a formidable opponent. He asked Alma if she was confident in taking him down. She replied, "Piece of cake." But the sheer number of minions posed a problem. Overwhelmed, they'd be in trouble. Noel assured her, "I'll handle the fodder. You focus on the leader." Alma pointed out another issue, the bandits' detection skills. While she could mask her presence, Noel couldn't. He reassured her, "I've got a plan." Alma used her stealth to approach the leader, while Noel remained at a distance, maintaining contact through a tactician skill called linked minds, a form of telepathic communication. This ensured they remained undetected. Once Alma was in position, Noel initiated the attack, boosting her stats. He first used Shockwave to incapacitate the outer guards, confusing the bandit leader. In that moment of vulnerability, Alma struck, incapacitating him. The battle began in earnest as the remaining bandits recovered. Noel instructed Alma to harass the enemy, disrupting their formation until he arrived. With her assassin instincts, Alma swiftly took down 5 or 6 bandits, revealing a disturbing enjoyment for the kill. By the time Noel arrived, half the bandits were already down. He exclaimed, "I said harass them, not massacre them." Working together, they unleashed a barrage of attacks, immobilizing the remaining bandits. Noel finished them off with a fiery blast from his pistol. Noel collected the bandit leader's head as proof of their success and to claim the bounty. The village elder, overjoyed, invited them for a celebratory meal before final payment. Since Chelsea had already extended an invitation, Noel accepted. They learned Chelsea aspired to be a seeker like Noel, wanting to help people. Noel encouraged her, explaining that anyone could become a seeker upon reaching adulthood. She should focus on living a good life, and if her desire persisted, she could apply to the Imperial Academies. These academies offered free training for 2 years, accessible even to the poor. Chelsea, thrilled by the prospect of joining Noel's team one day, vowed to work hard. The elder and his wife brought out celebratory drinks, presenting a bottle supposedly worth 100 gold, raising Noel's suspicion. While the elder claimed it was reserved for special occasions, Noel wasn't fooled, especially since they'd only brought 2 glasses. Feigning politeness, he praised the wine and insisted the elder try it first. This made the elderly nervous. He stammered, claiming he couldn't handle alcohol. Noel, sensing a lie, declared the wine poisoned. Exposed, the elder insisted he had no reason to harm them. Noel sighed, enumerating the elder's motives. First, their deaths would eliminate the need for further payment. Second, he could seize their equipment and the bandit bounty. 2 birds with 1 stone. The elder denied it, calling the accusations insulting. Noel pressed further, explaining how the elder had already cheated them by exaggerating the bandit threat to inflate the reward. Moreover, a poor village like theirs couldn't afford such expensive wine. The cheap, discolored liquid was a clear giveaway. Noel, raised in affluence, was familiar with fine wines. He knew quality when he tasted it, or rather, smelled it. Alma added that she'd sensed killing intent from the couple when they offered the wine. Constantly vigilant, trusting no one, not even former teammates, they were always alert to such cues. She mocked their amateurish attempt at deception. Even if she had consumed the poison, her high poison resistance would have neutralized it. The elder, cornered, demanded proof. Noel, forcing the elder to drink the wine himself, declared it the best evidence. Desperate, the elder tried to dismiss them, but Noel used mental manipulation to extract a confession. The elder admitted to his plan: kill them, steal their belongings, and collect the bounty. Chelsea, horrified, couldn't believe her father's treachery. Without hesitation, Noel stabbed the elder's eye, blinding him. Knowing the elder possessed more wealth, Noel demanded more than the agreed 300 gold. As Noel threatened to take the other eye, Chelsea intervened, revealing her father's crippling debt to the mafia. To save him, she offered their entire family fortune, over 800,000 gold, leaving them penniless. Noel agreed to let them settle their debt with the mafia. Chelsea, now understanding the darker side of Seeker's life, turned on Noel, expressing her hatred for them. He was saddened. He'd only wanted to help. It was a classic case of good intentions gone wrong. He didn't blame her. On their way back, Alma acknowledged the hardships of their profession, risking their lives for meager rewards. Now further tarnished by the recent events, she asked Noel if he was okay. Sensing his sadness, she understood the emotional toll of turning an admirer into an enemy. She offered him comfort, suggesting he bury his face in her chest. Noel, snapping out of his reverie, called her a busty woman and rejected her offer. Alma, offended, protested his comments about her physique. He told her to act her age, but she insisted she liked his cuteness. Realizing this argument was going nowhere, Noel gave up. Just then, an airship passing overhead caught their attention. From the airship's insignia, Noel recognized it as belonging to the God Diener clan, one of the Regalia's 3 factions. The Regalia were elite guilds officially recognized by the Emperor. 7 guilds held this prestigious title, but not all were equal. Ranked by strength and achievements, they were divided into first, second, and third class. These clans had the privilege of using airships, adding to their aura of power. Alma, impressed, remarked on the likely abundance of powerful seekers within. Noel agreed, adding that they possessed not just strength, but also vast experience and wisdom, representing the nation's finest. He declared his intention to join the Regalia within the next year, aiming for a third-class position. This reminded Alma of her expulsion from the Assassin's Guild. The guild leader had acknowledged her combat prowess, but had questions. Firstly, about the death of the previous leader, Alcor, her grandfather. Alma admitted to killing him, stating a washed-up seeker was worthless. She revealed Alcor's twisted nature and his relentless pursuit of power, which ultimately consumed him. He was a seeker in human form, broken by his defeat at the hands of Noel's grandfather. This defeat had eroded his spirit. Alma wasn't Alcor's granddaughter, but his daughter. She was a tool, born from his rape of her mother, just one of his many offspring. After losing to Overdead, Alcor became obsessed with creating a superior version of himself through his children. He forced his offspring into deadly sibling rivalry from a young age. All her half-siblings had perished, victims of Alcor's twisted ambition. Alma was his masterpiece. Hearing this, the guild leader declared her unfit for the reformed guild, warning her to keep their conversation secret. Ironically, she then revealed this very secret to Noel, explaining how the guild now served the Empire, prioritizing intelligence over assassination, a change ill-suited for assassins like her. Heartbroken after 21 years of dedicated training, she wondered what to do. The guild leader, wanting to ease her pain, told her about Overdead's grandson, a tactician in the Imperial capital. He suggested she seek out Noel, recognizing his potential despite his useless class. Back in the present, Alma, having accepted Noel's offer, confessed her admiration. Despite being born weak, he hadn't given up, aiming for greatness. Embracing him, she pledged her unwavering loyalty. The scene shifted to a prison, where a cunning plan unfolded. A man, using shape-shifting abilities, impersonated a guard to gain access to a dangerous criminal. He was Hugo the Puppeteer, a notorious serial killer who had terrorized the capital. Meanwhile, Noel continued his rigorous physical training, running laps around the capital with hundreds of pounds of rocks strapped to his back. This daily routine, lasting over 2 hours, was grueling, but he never missed a day, adhering to his grandfather's training regimen. Since expressing his desire to become a seeker, Noel had pushed himself beyond ordinary limits. His grandfather's normally gentle demeanor had transformed into that of a stern taskmaster, forging Noel's resilience from a young age. He'd often vomited from exertion, a testament to his unwavering dedication. Lacking the self-enhancement skills of other classes, Noel relied solely on his physical strength. Beyond physical conditioning, they sparred regularly. While Noel could sometimes block his grandfather's blows, he was vastly outmatched in skill and experience. After each sparring session, Overdead would analyze Noel's mistakes, providing invaluable lessons. This constant feedback fueled Noel's growth. He cherished those memories, the sting of each blow, a reminder of his grandfather's unwavering belief in him. Now, he trained alone. He recalled Alma's words about the inherent limitations of tacticians. No matter how hard he trained, he could never match the natural talents of other classes. His efforts would always fall short. Just then, Alma, having woken up, sought him out. Noel's new apartment was spacious. He asked if she'd settled into her lodgings. Alma replied that while not as luxurious as his, hers were adequate. He asked why she was up so early, only to be teased. She purred, "Did you miss me, little brother?" playfully pinning him down, drawn to his physique. Ignoring his protests, she continued her playful assault. Despite his attempts to resist, he was no match for her strength. She teased him. "There's no way a little brother can defeat his big sister," before planting a kiss on his cheek. He retaliated with a playful jab to her head, but she deemed it a fair price for the intimate contact. As they walked, her relentless teasing left Noel speechless. He marveled at his tolerance. Anyone else would be driven mad by her antics. Seeing couples holding hands on the street, Alma, declaring it their first date, did the same with Noel. He explained they needed to visit the appraisal guild for his rank evaluation. Some classes were assigned at birth, limiting their advancement potential. The guild was populated by peculiar individuals, seemingly born to study jobs. Observing a seeker undergoing evaluation, Alma gained a newfound appreciation for the process. Noel asked Alma about her plans, noticing her promotion mark. These marks, appearing randomly on the body, when a seeker met certain criteria, usually showed up on the tailbone or bicep. Alma, however, jokingly wished Noel's would appear on his butt. He inquired about her decision to specialize in the assassin subclass. She hesitated, seeking his advice. He explained that while specializing would boost her combat abilities, they needed to consider team synergy. Their current two-person team was too small. They needed another powerful member like her. He suggested she postpone her promotion until they found a suitable recruit. For now, They would simply research potential subclass options. Noel then led Alma to a dwarven blacksmith, a trusted source of high-quality weapons, essential for any seeker. Regular maintenance was also crucial. The dwarf, greeting Alma, commented on her impressive attack power, then, much to their amusement, stared at her chest. Next, they visited a bookstore specializing in skill books. Different classes had their books sold in different locations, so Noel left Alma to browse while he went to another store. He reminded her to spend no more than 1 million gold, specifically on books, not frivolous items. Predictably, Alma bought a large teddy bear, justifying it as a Noel substitute for 200,000 gold. She also bought the Armor Pierce skill book for 800,000 gold, a skill that halved enemy defense, reaching her spending limit. Noel, meanwhile, had completed his transaction, exceeding his budget but acquiring a powerful instant kill skill, Spiritual Purge, for 3 million gold. He bumped into an acquaintance, leaving an impatient Alma waiting. He met with Loki, who, after initially expressing concern for Noel's safety, revealed he had the information Noel requested. It was about the rumored prisoner. Loki questioned Noel's sanity, asking why he'd want a homicidal demon as a teammate. While recruiting Hugo would significantly boost their strategic capabilities, it was a risky move. First, he'd sold his teammates into slavery for profit, and now he wanted to recruit a convicted murderer. Only Noel could be so audacious. Unfazed by being called crazy, Noel took it as a compliment. Loki, however, was equally unconventional. Renowned as the capital's foremost information broker, Loki's job was a mimic, capable of transforming into anyone he'd seen, coupled with exceptional infiltration skills. His unique class was so rare that even the Appraisal Guild knew little about it. Noel, curious, inquired if Loki's usual appearance was his true form, offering additional payment for further investigation. Loki, having a long-standing relationship with Noel, offered some free intel. A dangerous new drug was spreading through the capital. It provided an intense high, but also induced psychosis, leading to a surge in violent incidents. Noel, suspecting the Luciano family's involvement, questioned the wisdom of such a move. Loki corrected him, revealing the drug's source was a branch of the Luciano family, operating in Gambino territory. Their leader, Albert, was notoriously ruthless. Meanwhile, Alma, having devoured most of the tavern's menu while waiting, lamented Noel's obliviousness to female emotions. She ran into Lycia and began venting her frustrations. Noel, now aware of the Gambino family's involvement, grew concerned. Their former leader had recently died, leaving his son in charge. The Gambino territory was notoriously dangerous. Even Finocchio treated them with caution. Just then, Noel noticed a young man begging for money. His unfamiliar features suggested he was a foreigner. Feeling sympathetic, Noel deliberately dropped a coin, only to have the man return it. He chided Noel for being careless with his money. Then, noticing Noel's beauty, inquired what someone like him was doing in this part of town. Mistaking Noel for a woman offended him, causing the beggar to mistakenly assume Noel was experiencing stomach pains. Noel clarified his gender, explaining the coin was dirty, and urging the beggar to keep it. The beggar, stubbornly trying to return the coin, was swiftly kicked away. Insulted for being worthless. Humiliated, the beggar resorted to violence, revealing an unexpected level of skill. Noel realized he'd underestimated him. He narrowly dodged a blow aimed at his throat. They exchanged blows, Noel surprisingly holding his own. The beggar, impressed by Noel's defensive techniques, mistook him for a ninja, just a regular tactician. Noel corrected, recognizing the beggar's Far Eastern fighting style. Noel grew intrigued. That region was renowned for its swordsmanship. Seeing Noel's strength, the beggar activated a powerful stance. Noel, thrilled, recognized this was the teammate he'd been searching for. He drew his weapon, preparing to subdue this wild beast. When Koga, the beggar, was stopped by his owner, he wasn't a beggar, but a slave. Meanwhile, Alma complained to Lycia about Noel's neglect, adding insult to injury by suggesting she postpone her promotion. Scouts had 4 subclass options: Assassin, Inquisitor, Tracker, and Marauder. Alma was suited to Assassin or Tracker, but choosing the right one for their team synergy was crucial. Lycia realized Noel's absence was due to his ongoing recruitment efforts, a realization that didn't sit well with Alma. Back with Noel, Koga's owner berated him for disobeying, activating a slave contract embedded in a ring. Koga collapsed, his body convulsing from the dark magic. Noel recognized the ring as a tool for enforcing obedience. Its use was normally illegal, but permissible within the bounds of a slave contract. The owner, mistaking Noel for a woman, made unwanted advances, only to be kicked away. He lashed out at Noel, who calmly pointed a gun at his face, demanding to know his origins. The slave owner, originally from the South, had fled to the capital to escape the Alimbert family. He'd managed an underground fighting ring, but had embezzled funds, and was now seeking refuge with a powerful family. Koga was his prizefighter, meant to earn him fortune and fame in the capital's underground arena. Seeing Noel's understanding of the situation, he assumed Noel was also involved in the underworld. Noel clarified he was just a seeker, and, importantly, male. The slave owner, stunned, found himself staring down the barrel of Noel's gun. Lacking any powerful affiliations, he was expendable. Noel considered pulling the trigger, tempted to take Koga in the ring. Back at the tavern, Alma was disheartened to see Noel's recruitment notice still posted. Lycia criticized Noel's thoughtlessness, leaving a beautiful woman alone on their date. She agreed that Noel was clueless about women. This gave Alma an idea. She didn't care who Noel recruited, she'd simply eliminate them, ensuring she remained Noel's sole companion. Noel, having spared the slave owner, returned to find Lycia at the tavern. She'd been enjoying a meal, which Noel initially refused to pay for. She accused him of being stingy and ditching her during their date. Alma joined in, complaining about being left alone. Resigned, Noel agreed to cover Lycia's meal. They asked Noel about his recruitment efforts. He had a candidate in mind but wasn't ready to extend an offer yet. His tardiness was due to investigating the illicit drug trade. Lycia had heard rumors. While the drug provided an intense high, it also caused violent psychosis. It was being sold openly. Noel warned her to be cautious, and to relay the warning to Wolf. Lycia, surprised by Noel's uncharacteristic concern, remarked that this wasn't like him. Noel replied he was simply sharing information with colleagues. Pleased, Lycia invited Alma to spend time together, hoping to become close friends. Alma was delighted at the prospect of her first real friendship. Noel realized that if even Lycia knew about the drug, it had spread beyond Gambino territory, likely impacting other families' businesses. At Albert's headquarters, Koga's former owner arrived, seeking refuge. Recognizing Miju as a traitor who'd embezzled funds and fled, Albert questioned his audacity in seeking protection. Albert had received the bounty notice from the Luciano family, requesting Miju's capture and return. However, Albert disdained to bow to their demands. He saw Miju as a useful pawn and was willing to use him. Miju flattered Albert, disparaging the other mafia families as unsophisticated. Albert, amused by Miju's sycophancy, outlined his plan. Turn him and his slave into trophies for the Luciano family. He'd flay them alive, cure their flesh into prosciutto, and send the gruesome package as a gift to the Alimberts, confident it would send a chilling message. He wasn't joking and immediately ordered his men to prepare. Koga, overhearing this, despaired. Even in this distant land, he couldn't escape his wretched fate. Just then, a debtor arrived. It was village elder Mintz, now missing an eye. Thanks to Noel, he recounted his encounter with Noel, portraying himself as the victim, claiming Noel had stolen his money and his eye, forbidding him from paying the Gambinos. Albert, enraged, offered to deal with Noel, prioritizing revenge over debt collection. However, Mintz wasn't exempt from his debt. Even when robbed, he was still responsible. Lacking funds, he would pay with a hand. The underlings, though disturbed by Albert's cruelty, remained silent. Learning of Koga's Blademaster class, a combat style focused on swordsmanship, Albert decided to test him. He ordered Koga to sever Elder Mintz's hand with a cane. Miju relayed the command. Mintz scoffed at the notion of a cane being used for such a task, but in a blink, his hand was gone, much to Albert's delight. Impressed, he accepted Miju into his ranks, claiming Koga as his own. Koga, born in the distant Diamond Empire, had been trained from a young age, becoming an undefeated champion in underground arenas. He was immediately outfitted for his new task, hunting people. Koga's life had been tragic. Born to a wealthy merchant and a beautiful woman, his early childhood was idyllic, lacking only a child. One day, his parents prayed for a son, their wish seemingly granted. However, that same day, his father was brutally attacked and left unconscious. He awoke to find his wife had been assaulted. Though she later became pregnant, the child's paternity was questioned. Traumatized and emotionally unstable after childbirth, Koga's mother, unable to bear her husband's accusations, took her own life. This marked the beginning of Koga's misery. Though living under the same roof, his father never acknowledged him, treating him as a pariah, a constant reminder of his wife's violation. He and the rest of the household wished Koga dead. He became a cursed child. One morning, he awoke on a ship, realizing he'd been sold into slavery. Miju, his purchaser, introduced him to the brutal world of underground fighting. Miju thrived on Koga's victories, praising him and providing a sense of purpose Koga had never known. He was perhaps the first person to ever need him, yet he remained a slave. That night, unaware of the impending danger, Noel went to meet Loki, trusting their long-standing friendship. Loki betrayed him, revealing the Gambino family's intent to kill Noel, likely instigated by Elder Mintz. Noel wasn't surprised. He knew Albert was a dangerous madman, a sentiment Loki echoed. Albert defied conventional logic. Noel, recalling the Gambino family's previous reputation for benevolence, wondered how such a ruthless heir emerged. Loki explained that Albert was the former leader's only son, a feral child raised in the wild, brought back to lead the family. Suddenly, a powerful presence made itself known. Noel realized he'd been set up. Loki apologized, addressing the newcomer as General. Noel criticized Loki's betrayal of a client, damaging his reputation. Loki acknowledged this, but prioritized his own life. The payout was substantial, and he planned to leave the capital and start anew. Noel pointed out a flaw in his plan. Nothing stopped Noel from killing him now. While they bore no ill will towards each other, this betrayal was a somber affair. Loki accepted his fate, realizing he hadn't betrayed Noel, but his professional integrity. Seeing this, Noel relented, allowing Loki to leave unharmed, assuring him he no longer needed to flee. Noel would crush the Gambino family and restore Loki's honor. Loki chuckled, acknowledging Noel's madness might surpass even Albert's. With the impending battle, Loki departed, leaving Noel center stage. Noel consumed a vial, enhancing his physical abilities, and accepted the high risk for the temporary power boost. The two met, surprised to recognize each other. Koga was shocked that the person he'd admired earlier was now his target. Noel, however, was pleased. Koga had finally embraced his wolf persona. He congratulated Koga on his promotion. Koga insisted this wasn't personal. Noel, ready for round 2, noted Koga's new gear. Koga, however, expressed his unwillingness to fight. He still owed Noel a coin, but couldn't defy his master. He revealed his specialty, manipulation. Noel, reciprocating, introduced himself as a useless tactician, specializing in zero mana skills, the rightful heir of Overdead. They agreed to a fair fight, debts aside. Noel fired his pistol, but Koga's speed rendered it ineffective. Koga was in peak condition. Noel unleashed a fiery blast, which Koga surprisingly countered, slicing through the air to create a vacuum, extinguishing the flames. His manipulation was incredibly precise. Noel, realizing Koga's mastery of close-range combat, resorted to his grandfather's teachings. Relying on cunning and technique, with a swift move, he aimed a knife at Koga's groin, causing him to recoil in fear. "Not the family jewels?" he pleaded. Noel retorted, "This is a fight to the death. There are no rules." Outmatched in every aspect, he had to exploit every advantage. He temporarily blinded Koga, but couldn't capitalize. Koga, despite his impaired vision, blocked Noel's advance, his controlled slashes forcing Noel into a defensive position. He was at a disadvantage. As Koga closed in, Noel, in a desperate gamble, unleashed a powerful paralyzing incantation. But it fizzled, harmlessly dissipating against Koga. Koga's strength had exceeded Noel's estimations, rendering the spell useless. Noel landed hard, the impact jarring him. He had lost the physical confrontation, yet he had also made an impression. Koga, despite his clear advantage as a seasoned warrior, found himself strangely impressed by the tactician's tenacity. Noel had held his own for a surprising amount of time, a testament to his unorthodox training. Though his orders were clear, eliminate Noel, Koga found himself unable to strike the final blow. Something about Noel's spirit resonated with him. This hesitation ignited a fire in Noel. Snatching up Koga's dropped blade, he pointed it accusingly at the conflicted warrior. "What kind of pathetic display was that?" he roared. "Showing mercy to your enemy is a betrayal of yourself. In this world, your life is the only one that matters. Don't throw it away on sentimentality." Noel's lecture, however, had the opposite effect on Koga. He bristled at the notion of being told to kill someone who was actively trying to save him from punishment. It was absurd. And for a slave, Noel seemed strangely concerned about his well-being. Just as Koga's internal struggle reached its peak, the standoff was interrupted. Alma, bursting onto the scene, launched a furious attack against Koga, placing herself protectively in front of Noel. She snarled, "You dare lay a finger on my little brother?" Introducing herself as Alma, Noel's protector. It turned out Noel, anticipating trouble, had telepathically contacted Alma while consuming the enhancement potion. He'd known he might need backup. Alma pressed her attack relentlessly, leaving Koga on the defensive. He pleaded with her to stop, reluctant to fight a woman. Alma scoffed at his chivalry, confident in her superior strength, and urging him to unleash his full power. Koga, forced to respond, acknowledged her strength but pointed out his greater experience. They were kindred spirits in a way, both forged in crucibles of violence since childhood, having learned to survive by any means necessary. The fight raged, a whirlwind of motion, neither gaining a decisive advantage. Alma, unleashing her raging acceleration, blurred into a frenzy of attacks, momentarily disorienting Koga. He responded with a display of extraordinary skill, focusing his energy on a series of precise slashes, deflecting every one of Alma's invisible projectiles. Noelle watched in awe and a touch of fear. Koga had not only countered Alma's blinding speed, but had also seemingly created a localized area of enhanced perception. Every movement, every intention of Alma's, was anticipated and countered. Noelle recognized this as a highly specialized skill, a form of heightened awareness achieved by closing one's eyes and relying on other senses. This explained how Koga had been able to defend himself, even when temporarily blinded earlier. It was a testament to his mastery of his chosen fighting style. Noelle, who had always lived by the mantra that there was always someone stronger, felt a pang of envy. He knew that as a tactician, he would never be able to achieve the same level of physical prowess as these two combatants. Their battle was a stark reminder of the inherent limitations of his class, but as he watched their breathtaking exchange, a shift occurred within him. He pushed aside his envy and embraced his unique strengths. He realized his path to greatness wasn't through mimicking the raw power of others, but through something else entirely. His true strength lay in strategy, in leadership, in guiding the strongest to achieve ultimate victory. He would become the architect of their power, the mastermind behind their triumphs. Alma, acknowledging Koga's skill, felt her bloodlust surge. The stronger he was, the greater the thrill of the kill. She unleashed a cloud of potent poison, a signature tactic of the Assassin's Guild. Koga, finally discarding any reservations about fighting a woman, prepared to meet her attack head-on. But before the battle could escalate further, Noelle called a halt, ordering Alma to retreat. Frustration flickered across Alma's face, but she obeyed. She knew that defying Noelle's commands could jeopardize their budding relationship. He couldn't risk him abandoning her. Noelle then turned to Koga, urging him to escape. He pointed to the sky, where the bright flare of a signal round arced through the night. "The authorities are on their way," he warned. Failure and capture will only enrage Albert. Koga, though burning with the desire to continue the fight, knew this was the most prudent course of action. He vanished into the shadows. "Tell Albert," Noelle called after the retreating figure, "that I'm coming for him." The message hung in the air, a chilling promise of future conflict. The next day, Koga faced the consequences of his failure, the execution of his former owner, Miju. Albert informed Koga that Miju had paid the price for his incompetence. Any future failures would be Koga's burden to bear. Koga relayed Noelle's message, a promise of 1,000-fold retribution, the utter destruction of the Gambino family. He added Noelle's challenge. "If you fear this, come find me." Albert, enraged, dispatched Rio and his combat team to hunt down Noelle immediately. Rio, as they departed, cautioned Koga against revealing unnecessary information. He sensed Koga's lingering resentment over Miju's death. Recognizing Koga had channeled his anger through Noelle's message, Koga admitted his admiration for Noelle, a weak tactician who'd fought him to a standstill, displaying a level of determination that demanded respect. It wasn't flattery but genuine acknowledgement. He wondered how Noelle could face a superior combatant with such fearlessness, such unwavering confidence. Noelle had exuded an aura of unwavering ambition, a conviction that he would become the strongest. Rio, recognizing the admiration in Koga's tone, understood. He'd experienced similar awe in the presence of inspiring figures, a desire to serve and follow, a uniquely masculine form of respect. Later at the Seeker's Tavern, Albert arrived, seeking Noelle. Alma assessed his entourage. 1 A rank, the rest B rank. A formidable force, with additional reinforcements waiting outside. Albert, after taking a swig of Noelle's drink, declared it pathetic, an insult to the Gambino name. He then taunted Noelle about his upbringing, calling him a street rat, brought into the family. Enraged, Albert threatened to cut Noelle's mouth, but Noelle remained calm, knowing Albert's bravado stemmed from his entourage's presence. The other Seekers in the tavern, witnessing this disrespect, warned Albert against causing trouble. While they wouldn't interfere in a fair fight, the tavern was neutral ground. Seekers had their code of honor. Albert, now realizing he was surrounded by hostile seekers, hesitated. He ordered his men to attack, but Rio intervened, reminding him that such a move required authorization from the Luciano family. Their recent drug operation had already drawn unwanted attention. Now that there was a great war with the Seekers, the Empire would not ignore it. At that time, everyone would surely die, and if it still wanted to do so, then give the order again. They would fight to the end. Noel scoffed. All bark and no bite. You talk big, but you're still afraid of the Luciano family and the Empire. He continued his verbal assault, mocking Albert's lowborn status and his pretense of authority. You call yourself a mad dog? There are wolves out there who would tear you apart. He then, with a perfectly timed bluff, suggested the wine was poisoned. He'd laced it, he claimed, the moment Albert arrived, explaining its off-putting taste. When Albert, bewildered, asked how he could have known he would drink it, Noel shrugged. It didn't matter. All that mattered was the possibility. Whether Albert drank it or not was irrelevant. The seed of doubt had been sown. A panicked Albert, clutching his stomach, scrambled for medical attention. Rio, now fully grasping Koga's assessment of Noel, calmly drained the remaining wine, demonstrating his immunity. He complimented Noel's composure, the unwavering gaze that had captivated Koga. He left some gold coins to cover the drinks, and offered Noel a way out, leave the capital, and the Gambinos would consider the matter settled. When Noel questioned the consequences of refusal, Rio's veiled threat decided for him. He agreed to leave, outwardly accepting defeat. The other seekers in the tavern, witnessing this apparent surrender, were disappointed. Noel's reputation for boldness had taken a hit. Had he stayed and fought, they would have backed him. Noel and Alma left, but their departure was a ruse. They agreed to meet again in a week, having successfully manipulated Albert. Alma, impressed by Noel's cunning, expressed her admiration. He explained he needed time to investigate a few things and would meet her later. Alma, eager to prove herself, announced her intention to retreat to the mountains for intense training, determined to defeat Koga in their next encounter. 1 week later, Noel returned to the capital, summoning Albert for a final confrontation. Albert, amused by what he perceived as Noel's foolish return, questioned his sanity. Why come back? You could have simply stayed away. Noel, resuming his psychological warfare, mocked Albert's condescending laughter, calling it cheap and befitting his low origins. Frustrated by Noel's relentless taunts, Albert ordered his men to cripple Noel and bring him back for disposal, but his men remained motionless. Albert, bewildered, turned to Rio for an explanation, but Rio remained silent. Noel, grinning, savored Albert's confusion. Your men don't take orders from you anymore, Albert. You've destroyed your authority. He revealed that moments before Albert's arrival, he'd been approached by disgruntled members of the Gambino family. They were disgusted by Albert's leadership. As proof, Noel held up a small, familiar trinket, a child's toy. It belonged to the girl he'd been ordered to eliminate earlier, a task that violated everything the former Gambino leader stood for. Albert's actions had proven him unworthy of their loyalty. They had joined the Gambinos out of respect for the previous leader's honor and integrity, not to serve a ruthless tyrant. They were stunned to see Noel, having assumed he'd left the capital for good. Noel, recognizing the trinket as belonging to Chelsea, the village elder's daughter, felt a pang of sympathy. He harbored no hatred for the innocent girl. He hadn't forgotten her kindness. Noel mused. Perhaps unable to pay their debts, Albert eliminated the entire family, producing evidence he'd gathered. It proved Albert wasn't the former leader's biological son. Loki had obtained Albert's birth certificate from his mother, revealing she was already married to another man, the illegitimate son. Story was a fabrication. While the former leader had been involved with Albert's mother, it was before her marriage. The timeline made it virtually impossible for Albert to be his son. The former leader likely knew the truth, but, unable to refuse his former lover's plea, had taken Albert in. This was the truth behind Albert's rise. Noel, though now understanding the full picture, offered no thanks, much to Loki's dismay. He'd gone to great lengths to obtain this information. Noel, however, saw it as a transaction, a debt repaid. He then tasked Loki with investigating the former leader's death, specifically locating the last physician to treat him, a potential witness. Armed with this information, Noel presented it to the disgruntled Gambino members, who were already fed up with Albert's tyrannical rule. They were ready to abandon him. Rio, however, questioned the validity of the information. Was Albert truly not the former leader's son? The most damning revelation was that Albert had poisoned the former leader, then arranged his treatment at a hospital to solidify his claim to leadership. When Albert demanded proof, Noel presented the birth certificate and the testimony of the former leader's physician, whom Albert had bribed into silence. This explains Albert's panicked reaction to Noel's poison bluff at the tavern. As a tactician, Noel could easily compel confessions. With the truth exposed, the Gambino members branded Albert a traitor. He still claimed kinship, so Rio offered him a chance, defeat Noel in combat, and the matter would be settled. Honoring the former leader's tradition, Rio granted Albert the right to choose a champion from among their ranks to face Noel. Initially, Albert refused, fearing defeat, but the arrival of Finocchio changed everything. Noel had requested Finocchio's presence as a witness to the duel. Finocchio couldn't refuse. Firstly, he and Noel had a history. Secondly, Albert's drug operation was encroaching on his territory. This was a perfect opportunity to eliminate a rival legitimately. Noel had promised him 50 million gold for ensuring his victory, a lucrative offer. Albert, assuming this was all Finocchio's scheme, lashed out. Finocchio calmly corrected him, stating it was the tactician's plan. Albert, still skeptical, refused to choose a champion. Finocchio, losing patience, grabbed Albert, issuing a warning. He wouldn't tolerate further delays. They were leaders of prominent families. Such cowardice was unbecoming. While both were ruthless, Finocchio possessed the strength to back up his threats. Albert, realizing his precarious position, agreed to the duel. If he won, Finocchio promised to reinstate him as leader and smooth things over with the Luciano family regarding the incident at the Seeker's Tavern. Albert chose Koga as his champion, playing directly into Noel's plan. Koga, bound by the slave contract, couldn't refuse. While Rio might have been a stronger opponent, his fury over Albert's betrayal of their former leader clouded his judgment. Alma, eager to fight on Noel's behalf, was surprised when he insisted on fighting Koga himself. She worried he couldn't win. Noel, however, dismissed her concerns as naive. He said, "Just watch," a confident glint in his eyes. As before, Noel consumed the enhancement potion, preparing for battle. Rain began to fall, the downpour adding a dramatic weight to the atmosphere. This was their third encounter, and Noel intended to make it their last. His gaze held a steely determination. Koga, despite his previous victory, knew better than to underestimate the tactician. He acknowledged Noel's advantage, unburdened by the specialized physical techniques of combat classes. Noel could fight more fluidly, adapting to any situation. Noel, in turn, had carefully studied Koga's fighting style during their previous encounter, formulating a counter-strategy. Though Koga knew victory wouldn't change his fate as a slave, he resolved to fight with all his might. They shared a grim acknowledgement of the upcoming battle, a mutual respect forged in combat. Noel said, "It's good to see you again, Koga," a hint of a smile playing on his lips. He urged Koga to fight without holding back, to disregard Noel's well-being, and to unleash his full power. With Finocchio's signal, the battle commenced. They clashed, a whirlwind of furious motion. Noel parried Koga's initial strikes with his pistol, firing specialized ice magic rounds, aiming to slow Koga with the biting cold. Fire had proven ineffective in their last encounter. Ice was his next gamble. The onlookers, unable to follow the rapid exchange, grew restless. Rio, however, watched with quiet confidence in Noel, a belief that defied logic, given Noel's weak tactician class. Albert backed into a corner, still clung to the notion that a tactician was no match for a seasoned warrior like Koga. Initially, Koga dominated, his superior speed and strength overwhelming Noel. The freezing rain and icy terrain took a toll on both combatants, their breath coming in ragged gasps. But Noel, thanks to his rigorous training since childhood, had a crucial advantage: superior endurance. Observing Koga's stance, Noel anticipated his next move, a swift, devastating attack. He knew he had to disrupt Koga's focus, even for a fleeting moment. In a surprising move, Noel tossed his pistol aside, catching Koga off guard. "Out of ammo," he declared, a deceptive calmness in his voice. "Let's finish this hand-to-hand." He then muttered a string of seemingly nonsensical phrases, calculated distractions designed to sow confusion in Koga's mind. Before Koga could process this unexpected change in tactics, Noel lunged, closing the distance in a blink. Koga reacted instinctively, drawing his sword and swinging wildly, abandoning his refined manipulation technique in the heat of the moment. The blade grazed Noel's arm, drawing blood, but Noel's rigorously trained body, hardened by years of brutal conditioning, proved resilient. His arm, though injured, held firm. He deflected the blow, the force of the impact shattering Koga's sword. This unexpected turn of events, coupled with Noel's earlier distractions, shattered Koga's focus, forcing him to rely on instinct rather than calculated strategy. He charged recklessly, blindly swinging his broken blade, not at Noel, but at the ice round Noel had subtly concealed against his body. The round exploded, instantly encasing Koga in a thick layer of ice. Noel, seizing this fleeting opportunity, leaped high into the air, unleashing a devastating kick. His signature, thunderclap strike, aimed directly at Koga's heart. Koga crumpled to the ground, unconscious. In the sudden silence that followed, Koga, lying defeated on the icy ground, realized just how naive he'd been, how thoroughly Noel had outmaneuvered him. Memories of his childhood flooded his mind, the years of isolation and rejection, the constant fear of betrayal. He had always viewed himself as a cursed child, unwanted, a burden to his family. It was only as a gladiator, fighting for his life in countless brutal arenas, that he'd found a sense of purpose, a way to prove his worth through strength and violence. Koga, despite his strength, was still a slave, bound to obey another's will. Finocchio, with a flourish, declared Noel the victor. It was a well-deserved win. Despite his useless tactician class, Noel had proven himself a true force to be reckoned with, possessing not only sharp intellect and tactical brilliance, but also an unwavering confidence that set him apart. Koga, watching Noel, felt a flicker of something akin to envy. Perhaps if he possessed such unwavering self-belief, he could break free from the shackles of his past. Albert, still reeling from his defeat, could scarcely believe he'd lost. Noel, his business concluded, handed Koga over to Finocchio. Rio, having witnessed the fight, praised Noel's performance. He saw in Noel the embodiment of the warrior spirit they all admired. He offered Noel their assistance in the future, should he ever need it. Noel, however, declined, stating they were now even. Rio, finally understanding Koga's admiration, realized Noel was far more than just a tactician. Alma, meanwhile, fussed over Noel's injuries, chastising him for his recklessness, especially his use of thunderclap strike against a fellow warrior. While effective, the technique, targeting the heart and lungs, could be fatal. She chided him for taking on the fight alone. He simply shrugged, saying, "Winning is all that matters." Alma, however, saw it differently. As his teammate, she felt responsible for protecting him. He had rejected her help, taking on the burden alone. Sensing her concern, Noel apologized, promising not to do it again. Mollified, Alma accepted his apology, but demanded he rely on her more in the future. Just as it seemed the matter was settled, with Albert's downfall imminent, Finocchio approached, requesting a private conversation. Noel assumed it was about the reward, but Finocchio had a different proposition: join his family. He offered to support Noel in taking over the Gambino family, replacing Albert. Noel, amused, pointed out his age, a mere 16. Finocchio, however, insisted age was irrelevant, strength was paramount. Noel politely declined, stating his preference for pursuing his grandfather's legacy as a hero. Finocchio, realizing his offer wouldn't suffice, revealed his true intentions. He asked Noel if he knew what his job was, before dramatically reaching out and seemingly plucking Noel's heart from his chest. Finocchio was an A-rank scout, specializing in the rare subjugator subclass. While lacking in direct combat abilities, subjugators possessed unique skills, one of which was stealing hearts. Noel, touching his chest, felt nothing. No heartbeat. The activation condition for this skill was a double rejection. Noel had refused Finocchio twice, fulfilling the requirement, allowing Finocchio to forcibly extract his heart. The remarkable part was that Noel remained conscious, and even grinning. Finocchio explained Noel's heart was connected to him through a spatial link. However, should Finocchio crush the heart, or move more than 5 meters away, Noel would die instantly. He'd resorted to this drastic measure because of Noel's exceptional potential. Noel was too promising, a future threat to the Luciano family. Finocchio, ever pragmatic, sought to eliminate potential rivals before they became a problem. He offered Noel one last chance: join him, and he would spare his life. Noel chuckled, refusing. His principles wouldn't allow him to be anyone's subordinate, even if it meant death. He stepped closer to Finocchio, acknowledging the validity of his concern. Noel would become a formidable threat. However, he knew Finocchio wouldn't kill him. To do so would be a betrayal of Finocchio's pride. In their world, eliminating a potential threat early was logical, but it lacked the honor of defeating a worthy opponent. It was a cowardly act. Noel's words struck a chord. Finocchio, momentarily speechless, had been outmaneuvered. Noel declared he bowed to no one. He'd possessed the spirit of a king since childhood, and would never submit. Finocchio, defeated by Noel's unwavering self-belief, returned his heart. He feigned surprise, claiming it was all a joke, and excused himself. Before leaving, however, he warned Noel to remember his words. He would be watching Noel's ascent to power with great interest. Noel, accepting the challenge, told him to watch in silence. As Finocchio left, he was met with a chilling glare from Alma. She made it clear that any further transgressions against Noel would be met with deadly consequences. Albert, now desperate, begged for mercy. But Finocchio, having just witnessed Noel's indomitable spirit, found Albert's pathetic pleas even more repulsive. He agreed to spare Albert's life, but not his dignity. He would transform Albert into a pig, a grotesque mockery of his former self, his limbs severed to complete the transformation. Finocchio, arguably the most twisted individual in the capital, relished the thought, ordering his men to carry out the sentence. The following day, Koga, now under Noel's ownership, was given a choice: follow Noel or be freed to pursue his path. Noel didn't need a slave, he wanted a willing comrade. While acknowledging Koga's strength, he pointed out that there were many stronger seekers in the world. Noel's ambition was to stand at the very top. "I don't need a subservient dog," Noel declared. "I need a fierce, independent wolf." He handed Koga the contract, freeing him from his enslavement. Koga, deeply moved, expressed his desire to witness Noel achieve his dream. He pledged his loyalty, requesting to join Noel's team, offering his strength in service of Noel's ambition. Noel, having always desired a powerful comrade like Koga, readily agreed. Alma, surprisingly, offered no objections. Their team was complete. Their newfound camaraderie was immediately put to the test in a mid-sized abyss. Noel, acting as a tactician, amplified his teammates' abilities, coordinating their attacks with seamless precision. As he'd predicted, with their combined strength, clearing the abyss was relatively easy. They swept through the monster hordes, their teamwork impeccable. Once they reached a critical point, Noel used a powerful incantation to immobilize the remaining enemies, allowing Koga and Alma to eliminate the abyssal general. Victory, however, brought a new challenge. Koga and Alma bickered over who deserved the killing blow. Alma, having landed the final strike, asserted her claim, threatening Koga playfully. Noel intervened, praising their performance, but reminding Alma to refrain from reckless actions in future battles. He reminded Koga that their victories were a team effort. He then announced they were finally ready to form their clan, allowing them to accept larger, more lucrative missions. Both Koga and Alma readily agreed, their primary motivation being their loyalty to Noel. Noel explained the benefits of forming a clan, emphasizing the ability to accept direct commissions from the Empire, eliminating the middleman, and maximizing their earnings. Just then, a promotion mark appeared on Noel's hand. He recognized this as a significant milestone. He could now lead his powerful team, build a formidable clan, and strive to reach the pinnacle of the 7 Star Seekers. Just like his grandfather, the scene flashed back to the aftermath of the Level 12 Abyss and Overdead's final battle. Noel, ever resourceful, had secured stable employment for his family's retainers. Harold, a Seeker overseer and a close friend of Overdead, visited Noel. Concerned about his well-being after losing his grandfather, he was relieved to see Noel's resourcefulness, his ability to manage his family's affairs, and even entrusting the family wine business to their retainers, while he pursued his Seeker career. Harold then revealed the image of a formidable foe Noel was destined to face, a monstrous creature believed to be the same entity that had destroyed Noel's hometown. Noel, unsurprisingly, wasn't shocked. He'd suspected the creature's survival since his grandfather's death. 2 crucial elements were missing from the axe that day: the creature's body and Overdead's signature kite shield. Even the top-ranked Nightrage clan had failed to defeat it. By the time the Dragon Knights arrived, the creature, known as a lord, had retreated into the void, escaping annihilation. It was believed that beasts were driven by an instinctual urge to invade the human world. However, recent discoveries suggested some powerful beasts, like this lord, could manifest through sheer willpower. This particular lord was powerful enough to defeat even Overdead. Though it had only appeared twice, it was classified as one of the 10 Abyssal Lords, beings of immense power residing within the deepest levels of the void. The void itself was categorized into 13 levels, each ruled by a powerful entity. These lords, capable of world-ending destruction, were a constant threat to humanity. According to historical records, 40 years prior, a valiant known as the Silver-Scaled Cocytus had emerged, obliterating 3 nations in an instant. However, that era boasted many powerful heroes. Among them was the Blood-Pact Alliance, Noel's grandfather's clan, who had repelled this terrifying monster. It was humanity's first major victory against a Valiant, a testament to their combined strength. Driving a member of the 10 Abyssal Lords back into the void was considered a monumental achievement. However, this time, the Lord had not only defeated Overdead but also stolen his signature weapon, potentially heralding a new era of unprecedented danger. Noel, thrilled by the prospect of future revenge, radiated an intensity that unnerved Harold. He saw in Noel the same unwavering determination that had characterized Brandon, Noel's grandfather, in his youth. Harold, having served as an overseer for Brandon's clan, knew that look all too well. He'd come to check on Noel, a friendly gesture from an old acquaintance, but Noel's self-assuredness made it clear. His concern was unnecessary. Harold reminded Noel that he would soon turn 15, making him eligible to register as an official seeker. Noel, with a confident grin, assured Harold they would meet again. This was the face of a young man destined to become the strongest seeker in history. Back in the present, Noel, true to his word, accompanied Koga and Alma to register as seekers. Koga, worried about the interview process, nervously fidgeted. Noel reassured him, saying the questions were straightforward. Alma, seeing Koga's anxiety, teased him relentlessly, warning him that his nervousness might disqualify him before he even started. Koga, imagining Noel's dreams being dashed because of him, grew even more anxious. He was stuck between two playful, but ultimately supportive teammates. Just then Harold entered, his imposing presence momentarily silencing the trio. After exchanging pleasantries, they got down to business. Noel had meticulously prepared their application, meeting all the requirements. While their achievements were still somewhat limited, their strength was undeniable. Noel confidently stated his intention to reach B rank, pending their clan approval. Alma echoed his confidence. Only Koga remained at C rank. He mumbled something unintelligible, prompting Harold to abruptly end the interview, informing them their application had been rejected. At that very moment, news arrived. A level 12 abyss had been cleared by a single seeker. This was a regular occurrence. The seeker was a first-class member of the Regalia, often hailed as the strongest in the Empire, and the vice-captain of the Dragon Knights. Harold explained the reason for their rejection. The Empire was seeking seekers of significantly greater power. Their current qualifications were insufficient. The situation had changed drastically in the past year. Noel, unfazed, calmly inquired about the details. Harold, despite the information being classified, shared it due to their long-standing relationship, urging them to keep it confidential. A massive surge of mana had been detected in the western region of the Empire. The flow of mana within the Earth's ley lines was nearing critical mass. An eruption was imminent, likely within the next year, heralding the arrival of the most dangerous abyss ever recorded. The entire region would be within the monster's range. In other words, a catastrophic level 13 abyss, summoning a Valiant, was about to appear. It was unknown whether it would be a new entity, or the same lord that had defeated Noel's grandfather. When Koga asked about preventative measures, Harold explained it was impossible. The flow of mana within the ley lines was like blood in the human body. Forcing the mana flow would be disastrous. Harold explained. It could trigger earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, potentially worse than the Valiant itself. The land would become uninhabitable. The only solution was to confront the level 13 abyss head-on, driving the monsters back into the void. Alma inquired about their chances of success. Harold recounted the victory against the silver-scaled Cocytus, the foundation of the Empire's current prosperity. The upcoming battle would be an all-out war, relying heavily on the 7 Star Seekers, the Empire's strongest. While the top-ranked clans were worthy of the Regalia title, victory against a lord, especially one like the one that had defeated Noel's grandfather, was far from guaranteed. These lords possessed immense power, far exceeding that of ordinary abyssal creatures. The Empire needed its strongest seekers, not fledgling clans struggling to establish themselves. There simply wasn't enough time to nurture their growth before the impending battle. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Noel withdrew their clan application. Much to Koga's surprise, he acknowledged the logic, but questioned Noel's willingness to give up so easily. Where was the unwavering determination he'd witnessed? Harold, chuckling, interjected, "He gets that stubbornness from me. He's the grandson I'm most proud of." He expressed his unwavering faith in Noel's potential. Later that day, Koga and Alma confronted Noel, still puzzled by his decision. Shouldn't he be fighting for his dream? Noel explained he hadn't given up, but rather, he was seizing a greater opportunity. He led them to a secluded alley, revealing his plan. The emergence of a Valiant, while catastrophic, also presented a unique opportunity for Seekers. The Blood-Pact Alliance's victory against the silver-scaled Cocytus had propelled the Empire into a new era of prosperity. Technology utilizing the Lord's Heart provided limitless clean water, benefiting the entire Empire. The greater the threat, the greater the reward. This was how his grandfather had become a hero, how Seekers had risen to become the most respected profession. Their team would join the Regalia, proving their worth on the grandest stage. Koga questioned this approach. Shouldn't they establish their clan before aiming for the 7 stars? Alma, however, understood Noel's thinking. He'd previously declared his intention to join the Regalia within a year. Now, however, he'd have that time frame, much to their astonishment. 6 months to reach the 7 stars seemed impossible, but Noel was resolute. Once they achieved this, they would use the remaining time to distinguish themselves as a clan, proving their worthiness. His ultimate goal was to lead the charge against the Valiant. Victory would etch their names in history. The undefeated swordsman from the Far East, the granddaughter of the legendary assassin, and he, the grandson of Overdead. Koga and Alma, energized by this vision, were fully on board. Just then, news spread of the Dragon Knight's latest victory against a level 12 lord. Noel knew he needed a similarly impressive feat to establish his reputation, to make his name known throughout the capital. The following day, Noel underwent his promotion ceremony, choosing the strategist subclass. Alma, using her unique abilities, assisted in awakening his latent potential. The promotion mark on his hand vanished. As a strategist, his tactical thinking would be further amplified, and his ability to devise complex strategies enhanced. His strategist subclass enhanced his ability to predict the flow of battle, almost like a precognitive ability. Leaving the guild, Noel encountered Simon, one of the Empire's strongest seekers. Simon, having heard of Noel's recent exploits, greeted him, acknowledging Noel as the grandson of the legendary Overdead. Simon, the vice captain of the Dragon Knights, was one of only 3 S-rank seekers in the capital. The other 2 were the leader of the Nightwalkers and the captain of the Dragon Knights. While Noel lacked his grandfather's warrior class, he'd made a name for himself in the underworld by dismantling the Gambino family, forcing a change in leadership. Simon, intrigued, was curious about Noel's methods. Noel, feigning surprise at Simon's knowledge of his dealings, recognized Simon's recruitment attempt. Simon, making no secret of his intentions, invited Noel to join the Dragon Knights. Confident in his offer, he was taken aback by Noel's immediate refusal. Noel stated his unwillingness to serve under anyone. Simon, a man accustomed to getting what he wanted, prepared to use force. Noel, unfazed, challenged him. If he was to serve anyone, it would be the strongest in the capital. There were 3 S-rank seekers. One was too old to be a serious contender. Noel proposed a duel between Simon and Rio to determine the strength of the 2, making it a condition for his recruitment. Simon, realizing Noel's cunning, a fight between him and Rio would likely result in one of their deaths, backed down, frustrated but unable to force the issue. Just then, some nearby seekers jokingly referred to Simon as Number 2, enraging him. He demanded an explanation, having never fought Rio. They explained that Rio's achievements surpassed his, hence the nickname. Simon, in a fit of rage, lashed out, silencing them permanently, and giving Noel a chilling glimpse into his true nature. Simon's obsession with being second best was evident. Noel knew he had to accelerate his plans. Meanwhile, Alma sparred with Lycia, struggling to gain the upper hand. Lycia's calm, strategic approach countered Alma's aggressive style, exploiting her predictable attack patterns, a result of her impulsive nature. However, Lycia recognized Alma's potential within a team, especially under Noel's tactical guidance. Just then, a group of elven seekers approached. They introduced themselves as the Good Medicine Knights, a renowned and powerful team. They'd heard rumors of a seeker causing trouble in the underworld. Their leader, however, cautioned against relying on hearsay, expressing her dislike for idle gossip. Alma, surprisingly, didn't take offense, admitting the rumors about Noel were fairly accurate. That night, Noel asked Loki to gather information on B-rank seekers. Loki, sensing a scheme brewing, agreed, curious to see what Noel was planning. After reviewing the list, Noel chose the Good Medicine Knights as his next target. He understood the inherent duality within everyone and intended to use it to his advantage. Loki, observing Noel's calculating expression, jokingly cautioned him to maintain his heroic image. A few days later, Noel visited Hugo in prison. Hugo was a murderer, and Noel wanted him on his team. These visits were becoming routine, and frankly, Noel was a little bored. He noticed Hugo had lost more weight and expressed concern, fearing Hugo might die in prison before Noel could get him out. While this didn't seem to faze Hugo, Noel was genuinely worried. He was determined to find evidence to exonerate Hugo and recruit him. Hugo was known as the Puppet Master and was once celebrated as a brilliant seeker. He possessed a rare and highly sought-after job class that combined combat and crafting skills, allowing him to control puppets of all shapes and sizes, making him adaptable to any situation. His calm and collected nature allowed him to devise clever strategies, which also meant he preferred to work alone. Controlling puppets was often more effective than having teammates. Legends of his talent circulated until he retired, leaving his seeker life behind to become a successful doll maker. Tragedy struck, however, changing his fortunes and landing him on death row for a shocking murder that rocked the capital. He was now awaiting his execution. Despite Noel's persistence, Hugo refused the offer to join his team. Firstly, he didn't believe he'd ever be released. Secondly, he was done with being a seeker. Noel, however, was determined to prove otherwise. He somehow exerted influence over the prison guards, leaving Hugo baffled. He assumed bribery, but Noel claimed to have something on everyone in the prison. Emphasizing his seriousness about freeing Hugo, Hugo admitted he'd be happy to leave, but still couldn't accept the team invitation. He saw seekers as arrogant and overly reliant on their powers, traits he despised. He then described Noel as particularly vile, like a venomous snake, cunning and manipulative. Noel, unfazed, took this as a compliment, mentioning he'd been called that before. Ending the visit, Noel promised to return, hopeful that Hugo would reconsider. That evening, Noel took his 2 current teammates to the Bird's Beak, a tavern exclusively for top-tier B-rank seekers. Koga, one of his teammates, was understandably intimidated by the high-profile clientele. Unconcerned, the young man, having already planned everything, strode into the tavern. As expected, all eyes turned towards him and his companions. One patron stepped forward, addressing Noel as "Girl." Noel calmly responded, reciting the man's son and daughter's names as a thinly veiled threat. When the man demanded to know how Noel knew such information, the reply was a simple, professional secret. Noel continued, "If you still want trouble, go ahead and try. Are you prepared to lose everything?" The man, thoroughly intimidated, backed down and let them pass. Noel then greeted the other groups present, announcing himself as Noel the Useless Spellcaster, leader of the 3-member team, Blue Beyond. The tavern's food and drink were impeccable, even featuring a rare wine from Koga's homeland in the Far East. Noel reminded his teammates that they weren't there for leisure but to stir up trouble, specifically targeting Leon's team, the top-ranked B-rank seekers. Ophelia noticed Alma and greeted her, surprising Koga. Using telepathy, Ophelia learned that Alma was an acquaintance of Lycia's. The assassin warned Noel to be careful, as Alma held a strong dislike for him. This only fueled Noel's excitement, confirming their intention to provoke a confrontation. While unsure of Noel's plan, Alma, amused, agreed to play along. She introduced her teammates, and upon learning Noel's identity, feigned disgust. She accused him of selling his friends into slavery, deeming him unworthy of being a seeker. Noel, unfazed, continued his provocation, claiming to have sold his teammates to the mafia for a hefty profit. Ophelia, enraged, moved to attack but was stopped by Koga. "Don't think you can be rude to our leader just because you're pretty," he warned. "He may seem harsh, but he's someone I respect. If you want to fight, be prepared for the consequences." He didn't care what Alma said about him, but warned her against disrespecting Noel again. Leon, witnessing the commotion, approached and asked his teammate what had happened. Noel claimed Ophelia had tried to attack him, which Alma confirmed. As a leader, Noel feigned an apology, then turned to Leon, asking him to control his teammate, lest she bite someone else. He then compared Ophelia to a dog, infuriating her. She demanded a retraction, but Noel refused. He welcomed a verbal sparring match, complimenting Leon's cunning. Ophelia, recognizing Noel as the infamous seeker she'd heard rumors about, urged Leon to avoid conflict, explaining that this was why she had lost her composure. Understanding the situation, Leon considered letting it go, but Noel pressed further. He taunted all 4 of them, not just Ophelia. They retorted that someone who sold their comrades shouldn't be a seeker. Noel replied that he didn't need their approval, sarcastically noting how influential Leon, the paragon of the Holy Medicine Knights Brigade, was to have an opinion on seeker affairs. Leon told Noel to continue his insulting ways and await his inevitable downfall. Noel, laughing, accused Leon of playing God and being incredibly arrogant, countering that those who believe themselves to be always right are the ones who deserve retribution. Furious, Leon stormed off, followed by disgruntled murmurs from the other patrons. Though annoyed, they were all too intimidated by Noel to voice their complaints openly. Alma praised Noel's performance, while Koga worried he'd gone too far, especially since Leon had apologized. Noel assured him everything was going according to plan, revealing his intention to use Leon and his team as stepping stones for his advancement. Though surprised by his ruthlessness, the pair were reminded that in the Seeker world, It was eaten or eaten. However, Noel clarified that it wasn't necessarily the weak who were devoured, but the arrogant, like Leon, who presented their backs to their enemies as if inviting the killing blow. The scene shifted to Harold and his granddaughter Marion, discussing who to nominate to lead the upcoming Convoline subjugation effort. Marion, despite being his granddaughter, possessed a strong, rebellious personality. She scoffed at Harold's suggestion of Noel. Her own choice was Rio, based purely on his strength, not any bias from being his Night Howler supervisor. The Dragon Slayer squad was another strong contender, but Harold's choice of Noel baffled her, especially since he had just rejected their clan application. They made a wager: if Noel was chosen over Rio to lead the Seekers against the Valiants, Harold would relinquish his position as head of the family to Marion. If she lost, she would learn proper decorum. As a prospective supervisory officer, she needed both intelligence and appropriate behavior. Despite being a woman, her language often resembled that of a street thug. Harold taunted her, suggesting she decline if she feared losing. But Marion, driven by her competitive spirit, accepted the challenge. The scene cut back to the Holy Medicine Knights Brigade, now separated. Keem, Leon's childhood friend, reminisced about their past. Leon, with his inherent kindness and unwavering righteousness, had often been bullied. Keem had always come to his rescue, urging Leon to fight back. Both possessed combat-oriented jobs, so there was no reason to be afraid. Leon, however, believed resorting to violence was wrong. Keem, initially thinking it a joke, eventually accepted Leon's pacifistic stance. Their close friendship led them both to become Seekers. They shared the dream of becoming the strongest, envisioning a team of powerful allies. Their goal was to be Seekers who upheld justice and helped others. Leon, always agreeable to doing good, readily embraced this path. As they grew, they pursued this dream, facing numerous hardships alongside two other companions. Their victory against the formidable Level 7 Evil Dragon had catapulted them to fame. Back in the present, Keem and Leon discussed Leon's uncharacteristic outburst at the tavern. Keem, unsure of the reason, suggested jealousy. Noel, despite his youth, had already gained access to the bird's beak and commanded a degree of respect, something Leon's team had achieved only after years of effort. To deny any jealousy would be disingenuous. While Ophelia's reaction was understandable, Leon, as the leader, should have maintained his composure. Keem marveled at how quickly Noel had risen in the ranks. He then mentioned the Seeker Association's recent letter, requesting established teams to form clans. Leon's team, eager to do so, had scheduled an interview for the following day. However, Harold had rejected their application, deeming them too weak. He'd recounted the incident involving the Valiant's manifestation, much like he had with Noel. Harold observed that they lacked the necessary resolve. They should have formed a clan during their peak, but they didn't. Leon, he felt, lacked the ambition that drove a true Seeker. Harold then revealed that the letter they'd received wasn't from the association, dismissing it as a prank, much to their shock. Dejected, Leon pleaded for another chance, and to their surprise, Harold agreed, setting them a trial. The subjugation of the Level 8 threat. Bis. Success would grant them clan status. Keem, despite the danger, encouraged Leon to accept, reminding him that facing Level 8 threats was inevitable in their profession. This was their chance to prove themselves. Harold then added another layer to the trial. Leon's team wasn't the only one seeking clan approval. Another rejected team would compete alongside them, with the better outcome determining the winner. The mastermind behind this arrangement was none other than Noel. Leon and Keem were stunned, realizing they would soon face their unpleasant rival. Harold explained the trial's rules and conditions. The objective, as stated, was the subjugation of the Level 8 threat, Bis, known as Dantalion. When asked about the creature, Noel, present for the explanation, described it as a monkey-like entity with mind-reading abilities, known for its cunning, brutality, and formidable strength. Its third eye allowed it to anticipate incoming attacks. Many Seekers had fallen prey to this monster in the past, tortured relentlessly until their demise. Harold, impressed by Noel's knowledge, declared the terms of the competition. The Holy Medicine Knights Brigade and Blue Beyond would race to subjugate Dantalion. The first team to succeed would win the right to form a clan. Noel, ever provocative, inquired about eliminating the competition preemptively. Leon's team, averse to killing, was reassured by Harold. While interference was permitted, murder was strictly forbidden. The losing team was prohibited from pursuing the victors. Captures, if any, were to occur in safe zones, away from the monster's threat. Any harm inflicted on others by the monster, due to a team's actions, would be considered a violation. Harold warned them of his constant observation throughout the trial, advising against any rule breaking. Noel pressed further about pre-trial interference, citing a near assault by one of Leon's team members. Leon apologized again, but Noel, feigning disbelief, made a demand. Both teams should be in peak condition for the competition to ensure fairness. Harold, agreeing, added this stipulation to prevent further pre-trial conflict. He emphasized this as their last chance, reminding them that the losing team would be disbanded and forbidden from working with their former teammates. Their seeker licenses would be revoked, the price of their failed ambition. Leon's team, confident in their abilities, signed the agreement. Noel, his plans already in motion, readily agreed as well. With both teams' consent, Harold scheduled the trial for 3 days later. Leon, though admitting to some arrogance, expressed confidence in his team's superior strength. Noel disagreed, citing his recent rank up and newfound power. His tactician class granted him a near-prescient ability to calculate outcomes, and he'd foreseen Leon's defeat, picturing him begging for mercy. Leon, unfazed, calmly accepted the challenge. 3 days later, at noon, the trial commenced. All members were present and in good health, ensuring a fair start. In stark contrast to the Holy Medicine Knight's seriousness, Blue Beyond casually sat down for a meal. Intrigued, Leon questioned their commitment to the trial. Noel simply stated that a hungry warrior was an ineffective one, telling them to mind their own business. Leon, disappointed by Noel's nonchalant attitude after his previous boasts, was met with a sarcastic reminder about haste-making waste. If Leon's team considered themselves superior, they were welcome to go first. Kaim advised Leon to ignore them and focus on the task at hand. Upon entering the abyss, Ophelia's abilities allowed them to predict monster attacks within a 5-minute window. Their leader called for an immediate engagement. Before engaging, the Beastkin warrior revealed Noel's earlier attempt to persuade him to betray his team. He'd refused, of course, and now worried about his teammates. It turned out Noel had approached all 3 of them with the same offer. Kaim reassured Leon that their loyalty was unwavering, admitting they hadn't understood Noel's cryptic promise of freedom. In exchange for betrayal, they rallied around their leader, recognizing Noel's tactic to sow discord and weaken their team. Disgusted by such a petty maneuver, they were glad to have exposed it, and with renewed resolve, they prepared for battle. The sheer number of lesser monsters explained why Blue Beyond hadn't rushed in. Observing Blue Beyond's continued leisurely meal, Harold shook his head, recalling his private conversation with Noel a few days earlier. He'd confronted Noel about the forged letter sent to Leon's team, a letter falsely claiming to be from the Seeker Association. Noel argued that Harold had tacitly approved, reminding him that they were, after all, family. Harold, exasperated by Noel's lack of remorse, had let it slide, acknowledging the boy's manipulative nature. The outcome, he admitted, depended on Noel's abilities. When asked about his chances of winning, Noel confidently declared victory, boasting of a clever strategy learned from his grandfather. Koga, growing anxious after a while, questioned the possibility of the Holy Medicine Knight's winning. Noel reassured him that everything was proceeding as planned. Their opponent's strength necessitated this strategy to put them at a disadvantage. Pressed by Elma for further explanation, Noel revealed that Leon's overwhelming power was the team's sole advantage. Leon's combat prowess, tactical acumen, and innate Skywings ability granted him exceptional magic and lightning-fast skill activation. This was a gift, but it also presented a challenge for his teammates. Such exceptionalism could hinder a team, especially one led by someone as emotionally driven as Leon, who stubbornly clung to his perceived correct choices. Noel predicted an imminent turning point for the Holy Medicine Knights, reiterating his confidence in his own meticulously prepared victory. Awaiting the germination of the seeds he'd sown within Leon's teammates, he recalled his earlier conversation with Kaim. Approaching Kaim as he sat drinking, Noel, restricted by the no-harm rule, engaged in seemingly harmless conversation. When asked if he intended to interfere, Noel confirmed his commitment to ensuring both teams started the trial in peak condition. He then, with a mischievous glint in his eyes, urged Kaim to betray Leon. Amused, Kaim questioned the reward for such an act. Noel promised him freedom, pointing out the burden of keeping pace with someone as exceptional as Leon. Such a life, devoid of personal agency, was meaningless. As Leon's childhood friend, Kaim understood this implicitly. The Holy Medicine Knights Brigade, Noel argued, was a distorted entity. Forming a clan in their current state would only lead to their downfall. The 3 teammates could never match Leon's innate potential. The effort, Noel claimed, could never surpass inherent gifts. Kaim's future held only despair, making betrayal the most logical choice. Kaim, struck by the truth in Noel's words, acknowledged the accuracy of his assessment. However, Keim insisted on staying by Leon's side, upholding his responsibility as the elder brother figure he'd always been. Noel warned that if Keim didn't betray Leon, Leon would betray him. Back in the abyss, the team faced the level 8 beast, Dantalion. The creature, true to its reputation, anticipated every attack, treating the four Seekers like playthings. Over an hour into the fight, they hadn't gained any ground, worrying Leon. Every attempted attack was effortlessly dodged. Knowing surprise tactics were useless, Leon resorted to his holy medicine, launching a sphere of light. Dantalion, anticipating this, dodged and retaliated with a barrage of rock. Ophelia, the team's weakest, was hit. Leon, telling his team to retreat, stayed behind to intercept Dantalion. Reading Leon's thoughts, Dantalion praised his strength, but mocked his futility alone. Leon, struck by Dantalion's resemblance to Noel in personality, unleashed a powerful attack, illuminating the area. The Seekers, refusing to give up, retreated to safety. Dantalion, annoyed by the chase, grumbled. Ophelia, though treated, was unable to use her bow, apologizing for becoming a burden. To avoid defeat, Leon considered cooperating with Noel's team, but Keim refused. He had a plan. He would act as bait, allowing Leon to unleash his strongest attack. The others protested vehemently. Dantalion was unlike any monster they'd faced, and the attack's wide range risked engulfing them all. Keim argued that this was precisely why he should be the bait. Their temporary barrier, concealing them from Dantalion's perception, wouldn't last. He urged Leon to remember their past victories achieved through bold gambles. Leon countered that this situation was different. Dantalion could read minds, and would anticipate Keim's plan. They were trapped. Retreating meant disqualification and separation. Leon, understanding the stakes, proposed cooperating with Noel. He believed an alliance was their only chance to defeat Dantalion without casualties, even if they forfeited the trial. Helping Noel's team might sway Harold's judgment, allowing them to stay together. Keim finally understood Noel's words. Leon, prioritizing his perceived, correct choice, was betraying their trust. They now grasped the meaning of Noel's promise of freedom. Keim questioned cooperating with their enemy, Blue Beyond. Leon, desperate to protect his team, insisted it was the only way, the right way. Keim, losing his composure, accused Leon of lacking faith in him, and of humiliating them by suggesting an alliance with Noel. Leon's bitter reply, that he trusted Noel more than Keim's ability to be bait, devastated Keim. Noel had been right. He should have betrayed them first. He then plunged a knife into Leon, confessing his long-held jealousy of Leon's talent. Despite their bond as sworn brothers and teammates, Keim had always suppressed his envy, supporting Leon unconditionally. Yet, Leon lacked even the basic trust in him. Now, Keim craved freedom. Just then, Dantalion, having located them, prepared to attack. However, Noel's team arrived, initiating the next stage of their plan. Dantalion, intrigued by the new playthings, abandoned Leon's team. Noel introduced himself, claiming Dantalion as his plaything. Koga, on Noel's command, launched a relentless assault. Aided by Noel's spells, Dantalion lost its primary advantage, mind reading. It couldn't decipher the thoughts of either Noel or Koga, much to its confusion. Even more surprising, Koga attacked while simultaneously strategizing, mirroring Leon's ability. Through rigorous training and telepathic communication, the pair had developed this simultaneous attack strategy. Furthermore, Noel had equipped Koga with exorbitantly expensive ammunition. A single shot pierced Dantalion, inflicting significant pain. While Dantalion's mind reading still functioned, it was overwhelmed by Noel's rapid-fire thoughts, amplified by his recently leveled-up tactician class. Instead of tactical insights, Dantalion received only chaotic, painful noise. Enraged, Dantalion focused its killing intent on Noel, but the overwhelming influx of thoughts brought it to the brink of mental overload. Desperate, Dantalion sacrificed its third eye to relieve the pressure. Noel and Koga, satisfied, knew the game was over. Dantalion, now blind to their thoughts, remained unaware of their third member. Alma, having waited patiently for the opportune moment, sprang into action upon Noel's command, delivering the final devastating blow.